Hey everybody, welcome back to the PullBoxPals. I am Mark, and this is my buddy over here, Monk,
It's
and
me,
we're here.
Monk.
Yeah, that's Monk. It's because he's a wise man.
Mm. And because
And
it's my grandfather and father's nickname, passed
yeah,
down like a family tree. You can pass
wait,
down a
wait,
tree.
that dude, I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, it's my originally my grandfather's nickname. He fell out of a tree and got stuck like by his ankle or something, and his friends
Yeah,
said that he looked like a monkey swinging. Because this is back in like 1940 or 1950.
yeah,
Like it just he looks like a monkey. Ha 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 ha.
yeah,
And then he
yeah.
was just monkey, and then they just shortened it to monk. And then my dad got it because he was playing softball or something, and the coach was like, "Hey, aren't you Monk Mangle's kid?" And the guy's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "All right, get out there, Monk." And then I just took it because I'm like, I want it.
Yeah, but I mean, it makes sense. It's like now knowing that about your grandfather and your father, and knowing you for so long, it's kind of befitting. Like,
Yeah.
um, and and for you, I think, because I don't know your dad or your grandpa, but I mean, even just the transfer over to like the religious sense of monk, and just
Yeah.
knowing you in that sense as well, and just
Hmm.
the conversations you and I have on that topic. We're here to talk about comics, and we'll get back to that, um, but yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's just like it's befitting knowing you, like, and knowing that history. Like that's awesome, and I'm glad that
Well,
you go by it, because I don't actually know you by monk.
that's
So
true. Well,
yeah.
you know me by my secret hidden real name. This is my internet name slash people do call me it in real life, just not
Yeah,
you.
it's not going to be that hard to figure out what your actual name is.
No, I it's been said in several episodes.
By me
But
on
anyways,
accident. Anyways, we
it's
are here
okay.
to talk about comics, but we are talking to you about comics because of the IWEP network, who I
That's
want to
right.
say thank you to. Yeah, they host us on this feed, and it's wonderful. I have a great time. Um,
I do
but
too.
let's get to the brass tacks, Tim. What did you pull this week?
My pool box is not nearly as impressive as yours, and also I I was organizing some new stuff up here before the show. You jumped on the chat while I was putting some new things on. Maybe
Yeah,
if you noticed, I put up Slumber. You can't really see it, but I put up Jurassic League #1. We'll be bringing up #2 in about 5 seconds.
yeah,
This is really hard to do, but I also put up Dark Beach up there, which you can kind of see the bottom of, and then
yeah.
the first trade paperback of that Texas Blood, and I still
That's
have this
awesome.
finger up. But yeah, I love this wall. I love being able to do all this, have this room, and have this space to do this. So
Yeah,
it's hard, man, because Kick-Ass, like this, the first volume one, Kick-Ass volume 1 and 2 are probably some of my favorite comics ever. I haven't
yeah,
read them in a long time, but like the experience of reading those comics are so important to me, because
yeah.
just they were like my first dive into, in quote unquote indie comics, which they are, but I mean it's Mark Miller, and Image is pretty much #3 in the comic world. So
They're
for me
they're
personally,
they're they're almost mainstream in a way.
yeah, I
Yeah,
almost once they get a couple of movies. I mean, Kick Ass was a movie. How many
yeah.
Image comic movies have there been? Honestly, not that much.
There's been a handful.
Well, I mean people know Spawn. Um,
I mean, like Jupiter's Legacy was a show on Netflix.
okay,
That's and
so
and that's
me,
all. That's Mark Miller.
I think we're gonna call it a Pool Box Pals exclusive and say that in Image Comics is a mainstream comics. Is that a hot take?
Yeah, but I mean, that's a good hot take, but
I also don't know
I
if
th-
it's true.
I don't know if it's true. Maybe okay. Let's about like when light hits uh oh my
Prism.
gosh, when it hits a prism and it spreads out,
Yeah.
maybe image
is
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 the prism.
is the prism?
Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
maybe because image is taking in all that DC and Marvel has to offer, and then spitting out the variety across all the rest of
we need
the
we need
the,
to
the
let
indie
Seth.
comics.
Who was the well, I guess there was several creators of Image Comics, but we need to let them know that we just called them the prism of comics that light shines through. I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
tweet at them. I feel like they would really appreciate that. I mean,
No, it's true. I mean, I love Image. I mean, Image has been
yeah,
around. I mean, when I was a
30
kid and
years.
didn't really realize that there was such thing as mainstream and indie, like I loved picking up Image comics, and I don't know, it just wasn't like, it wasn't until years later I was just like, wow, I didn't realize how much like ground that they broke. Like
Mm.
they broke the wall between, and not just them. I mean, Dark Horse is how old's Dark Horse now? They're getting up.
Ooh. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. But
Yeah, well, we can get into
Dark
that.
Horse is probably under there. Maybe yeah. On another slow week, we'll cover that. But
Yeah, PullBox
uh,
Pals news history.
yeah. Hey, why
History.
not?
Yeah,
But yeah, that all that time killed. I did not grab my pool at all. But
that's fine.
I did share our story on the IWEP community network. So if you're on Facebook, go over, check it out, watch us there. Make sure you give those
Oh
guys
yeah,
a like. But yeah, so let's get into the pools, buddy. Are you ready?
let's see him or
Oh
hear
my
him.
gosh. Well, I
Let's
already mentioned this one. What were you gonna say?
let's just experience them. You know.
Yeah, let's just live in the now, man. Let's just experience it. Like, just be here now.
Just be,
Um, but something that's not like be here now. This is Jurassic League issue number 2. Um, I was paging through this and I was just like, this is like news. This is gonna sound like an insult, but it's not. This is like a newspaper comic art.
oh yeah,
And it even feels like it with the paper.
yeah.
Some pages feel a little bit different, weirdly, but like I'm trying to find like a good example page. Will do.
Well, and just to real quick to save time down the road, I also have my copy here too.
Wow. But we got the same
So
cover.
got same cover. I didn't see any variants at
I don't
my
even know if I looked
shop.
for any variants, if I'm being honest.
I'm gonna be honest there too. I did go look on the shelf because I did want a different variant of what something they pulled for me, but that's we'll get there.
But on
Um,
the topic of that, I actually saw some of the comics that I did pull this week. I was looking at the variants and I didn't like them. And I hate
oh
it because
yeah,
I'm like, that's a weird experience to be like the normal cover, not a weird experience, but it seems like the point of variance is it for to be better. But I guess as I'm saying this is just like it's so subjective because I'm sure that some
yeah,
people look at some variants and I'm like, ugh, and they're just like, that's the greatest thing. So art, baby,
yeah.
let's be subjective more than objective.
Art,
Um,
baby.
art, baby. Speaking of Image comics, I'm gonna do 2 Image comics back to back. I'm really excited about this one. It's
Wait, what
called
is this?
it's called Do a Power Bomb.
Oh, I looked. This is what I went back to the shelf to look for. My shop didn't have it.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you I am so bad at knowing what comics are. I wish there was like a little like excerpt that you could read at the beginning. I feel like comics should
Oh.
bring those back because like books do that, and this is a comic book. So like, why I don't understand why it's not in there. But I mean, I would assume that the premise is the wrestler. I also really like going in blind.
Oh yeah.
But
No,
I
that's
also feel like that kind of comes back on me sometimes because they'll be like, "Oh, you didn't know that he was a graduate from NY whatever." And I'm just like, "I didn't know that I was supposed to know that, and why didn't you say that in like the comic and not just in the description?"
like when I yeah.
You know what I mean? Like sometimes they'll put in I just need to get better at reading comics is what I think is the case here.
Same. Me too, buddy.
Yeah, because I don't really read the columns issues or anything like or the letters or things like that, and I feel like some of the like details of the story is given out in there sometimes.
Well, yeah. I mean, a lot of times the writer or even the artist will kind of give a summary of or an exposition of like how they came to develop what we are holding in our hands. And,
Right,
and
yeah.
that's why they also say like we want to. That's why they also say like we want to hear what you have to say, and you can hit them up in the tweets or on Instagram. I never do that stuff, and that is actually something I want to get better at.
It's cool,
But
man. I mean,
it's
it's fun to
also like
interact with creators.
having that confidence to do it too, because it's just like for me it's like, oh, these are creators, these are important people. I'm not important.
Well,
Ah.
you're important to me, so just remember that anytime you feel like you need to tweet somebody that you're like, I can't bother this person, be like, you know what? I can bother Timmy Mangle whenever. So,
Well, this is true.
See, I
But
just gave away my name.
the full details too.
Let me just say before I forget that this is by Daniel Warren Johnson. He's the writer, artist, and creator, which I think is pretty sweet. Mike Spencer does the colors. Russ Wooten does the letters, and the variant cover was by James Harden. I'm real stoked on this because I'm a big fan of comics that do just fun, I don't know, interesting arts or even interesting panel use. And I feel like I saw like a decent amount of it in here, but this is where I keep opening up to, so I might as well just show this. But yeah,
well, you know what, this issue, this series, and like when the first one came out, and I posted about it on Instagram or whatever, and I kind of just talked about like I love this kind of like mashup of dinosaur DC heroes, but it also takes me back to like the 90s in a way, where like you had I think it was Wendy's. If you went to Wendy's to get, pay Dave a visit or whatever, he always seemed like he should be there from the commercials, but he was never at mine. But like they had the Looney Tunes in DC, like you could get a Bugs Bunny that I think was Superman, and Daffy Duck who was Batman. And like it's just like that's like fun. It's just fun, and it's just let loose, and like, you're just gonna put it all out there, and it's gonna be what it's gonna be. And it was just fun. DC found it to be something worth printing. And DC, I think I said this last week, but something I've been getting better at with comics is checking what's selling. And DC's at the top right now.
So we're wrong.
Or we're just really, really skeptical and critical, which is not like, that's not a bad thing to hold. Like,
sure,
I think DC should be held to a standard. And I do also, unfortunately, believe that most people kind of fall into the mainstream. That's why it is called mainstream.
Right,
and I don't hate DC. I've struggled with DC, and I've really enjoyed some of the stuff that they've put out. And so I am looking forward to like reading this tonight.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
sorry to steal your thunder a little bit.
No, it's good. And yeah, I would love, if you're listening to this, I would love, and recommend us some fun DC stories from the last 2 years. I would love to read it.
You read in the pandemic.
Yeah, I think that that's a really fun, a universe with a lot of potential for a good time. And I think, I'd love to know. Oh God, I got my cat coming up. So before my cat gets up here, let me talk about Slumber number 4. I don't really have much to say. I really like this variant cover. I do believe that this is a variant. And this bunch of geese. I don't know why, but geese and guns, which sounds like fun to me. But I've talked about Slumber a bunch, about dream killing, and I guess the story is there's a police detective, and his dream is being hunted now, and he's killing people, and so they've taken the police detective into the dream landscape. So it's just kind of that's how that's rolling. I'm sure that it's going to be getting close to the conclusion. I don't know how many issues are on this, but that'll be a good time. And speaking of a good time, I know I talked about this a couple weeks ago, but I finally got issue number 1 of volume 1 of Good Boy, which was the only one of the Good Boy series that I didn't own. So I've had 2 and 3, and I've also had issue 1, maybe 2 of the second volume. I don't know if the second issue of the volume 2 is out yet.
Oh, that's cool, man.
But so, and this is a director's cut. It says so down here. Fun. And it's all in black and white, which you can kind of take from the covers that it fades to black to white.
I struggle with black and white.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. It kind of feels like it's missing some things.
Yeah,
but it's the first issue, so I'm just gonna kind of plow through it. And I mean, I'm a big fan of the lettering. It looks like, I mean, they have a letterer, so it looks like he just actually used like real lettering, like not just like got whatever from place. Yeah, you can't really see it. He used his actual hand and not
Huh.
like a thing. So it's
Huh.
nice. I would assume. I don't know. Maybe he didn't. I don't know.
Maybe
Anywho,
he just looked at it and it became.
I also got a comic that and it just became that's funny. Uh he just did it with his mind. I also got a comic that we're going to be talking about in a little bit called The Ward, but for some reason it wasn't in my bag. I might have left it downstairs or somewhere. Oh, I was reading it earlier.
You
So,
were, yeah, you told me that you read it, and so
yeah.
oh yeah,
So I
mine's sitting right here.
Yeah, and I got the same cover. We talked about it last week because you
Yeah,
pulled it last week,
I
and
sure
then
did.
you posted about it, and I was just like, man, I really like this premise. We'll talk about it in a few minutes, but yeah,
Yeah,
uh, I'm I think what I decided this week is to like I want to make sure that I'm reading these comics because I want to give them like a good go. And you do such a good job at like rereading them and like sitting in them, and I want to
I
start
tried
doing that.
to. Yeah,
Uh, another issue that we're going to be talking about is that Texas Blood later. I mean, I guess I'll be talking about it, but that's another one that I'm like, I need to go back and reread this because I realized once I
yeah,
was done reading it, I'm like, oh, that was phenomenal, and I didn't even let it just kind of washed over me too quickly. So
yeah,
I need to go back and kind of sit with that. But
yeah,
yeah, those are my pools, man. Just those five. I had
yeah.
five. Now, Mark, how many did you have?
Dude, man, my lists a few weeks in a row now have just been like +5.
Can you say Jorgantuous?
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I had Jurassic League, which we already talked about, so I'm gonna leave that one right over here. But oh man, what did I get? Let's see. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7 this week. I had 2 more on my list, but my shop didn't pull them, or maybe I asked for them too late before the cutoff to order them, and they're on back order. Who knows? But
Yeah, last week I think after we get off, you said something about like having 11 or something like that.
yeah, and
So
it
it jumped
reduces,
down.
and I also
Yeah.
base all this off of what League of Comic Geeks gives me, to which I will also address another type of way that this site kind of messes up.
Mm.
But like the comics team seem to jump a lot on here, and they probably are trying to keep up real time. But there's also been times that I think that they've fallen behind, and uh, yeah. So I had 11 in total last week. It reduced to 9. 2 of them jumped over to next week. Um,
Mm.
but something that happens, and I'll get to this later, but it has to do with Cult of Icarus right here. And I'll get into that when we talk about it. But let's get into
Alrighty.
the other 6 that I got. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Marvel, because that's always a good place to start after you've already finished or started with DC. But right
Yep.
here, I got the next Moon Knight, the Black, White, and Blood. I enjoyed 2/3 of the first issue. Because remember, I said it's 3 different stories that were in
Right.
there.
Yeah,
Um,
I was looking at issue 2. I really enjoyed the art. I only looked at like a page or two, but the
yeah.
art looked really cool.
And then going again back to like not liking black and white. This isn't just black and white; it's black, white, and blood,
Oh
and
my god.
just the use of red in this series. And like, this isn't the first series to do this. I mean, we also have been seeing it in Little Monsters, where I
Mm.
mean, red blood is the primary red we're going to see in Little Monsters, but they also use this color really well and minimally.
Well, and
And
also actually a really good example of I think what we would say grayscale and black would be May's book, which is on the other hand
oh
over
yeah,
here.
totally, yeah,
That's a book that's pretty much just looked like it was hand drawn on like a piece of paper and then a red marker or something like that. You know, red pen. Actually, no, it literally
yeah,
looks like a red sharp, like a Sharpie pencil or something like that.
yeah,
So there are
cool.
great examples of that.
Yeah. So this one, the 3 different stories. One of them is written by Benjamin Percy, and the artist is Vanessa R. Del Rey. Another story is written by David Pepose. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. and his artist was Leonardo Romeo. And then the last story is written by writer and artist Patrick Zurcher. So the previous issue had different authors as well for each story. So that is fun, and I might look into some of these other Black, White, and Bloods from Marvel because it's not what I thought it was. I didn't realize it was just like little short stories from different groupings in the same issue, and that's kind of neat, but also probably more like Marvel Unlimited worthy. So
yeah, and it's such a shame, man, because it's such a nice feeling to have like to get a comic that you're looking forward to, and I really wish like every comic that I was reading was one that I was just like, there's a lot of them that are just like, yeah, I'll read this eventually when I get to it, but like that pile is just continually growing, and I guess that's what yeah, I guess that's what like Comixology and Marvel Unlimited and all that stuff is for. Really.
Yeah, just to catch up on things that maybe you overlooked or underlooked or whatever. Anyway, my next one is from Marvel, Star Wars Bounty Hunters. I got the Pride variant. This is a pair of this is a good.
I love that. I saw that.
Yeah. So this is oh my gosh, I forgot. Okay, I know one of them's Tonga, but I forgot her girlfriend's name. Here, I think it's. Man, I can't remember. I can't remember what her name is, but we'll get to it. What's up?
Have they been in canon for some time?
They were introduced in Bounty Hunters #1.
Okay.
So they're new, and so it is cool because they have been slowly taking over some of the main story arc of the overall series, and this is the last issue of this series, or at least of this arc. So, and I've struggled with the last few. I think I like the last one because the last one was the story that had Dengar. I was really enjoying that. And so this is supposed to be a continuation of that, but these two are in it, and I think I need to reread it, and I'm going to get back into that more later because something I will maybe talk about at the end is Star Wars just finished up their 24 issue arc. And then I also got this variant of Darth Vader that came out a couple weeks ago. So
that's beautiful,
right? Like, look at this.
Oh man,
ooh. But so that's it for Marvel. Then let's see what next. I got Volt Comics. West of Sundown 3 came out.
I'm a big fan of that cover. You mind holding that up for me again?
Oh yeah.
If you look at that, I'm a big fan of like comics covers that look like they were like grindhouse films.
Yeah,
and that's what that looks like, as well as
it's some of the inspiration.
The Fourth Man had that too.
Yeah, it is some of the inspiration behind these comics, but it's also heavily influenced by the classic westerns and classic horror films. I'm pretty excited about it. I didn't care for issue 2, I think, as much as I should have. I might reread it before I read this one because issue 1's like pretty well ingrained in my mind. But I'm excited about this one, so I'll get to that. This next one, I'm very excited for this next one.
Oh my god, you just perked up so much.
Well, it's from Aftershock, and I don't know. I think I'm a fan of Aftershock. Not always, but I like most of what they've sent me. So, anyways,
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so this one is written by Paul Tobin, and the artist is Alberto Jimenez Albuquerque. I don't know if I said his middle name right, but it's called The Calculated Man. And this one just has such an interesting, like, fun, cool, like, noir premise. And it's basically the calculated man. He is the accountant for a mafia or something like that. And then he decides he wants to get out of that life. And there's really only 2 options for a man of that status to get out of that life. And it's either be killed by the mafia or get yourself, become a witness for the state or for the government and get into witness protection. And it turns out the mafia finds out like his alias or whatever. And turns out the calculated man is pretty good at killing.
Oh.
So I'm interested
Now, did you
in what.
read it at all, or did you just pick it
No,
up?
I have not had time today to read any of my new stuff, but that will definitely be on my hot list
Nice.
tonight.
Hot list.
Yeah, just made that up. And lastly, I have two from Seventh Son, or it's not Seventh Son, Image. One of them is called the Seventh Son. Or no, Seven Sons.
That cover is unsettling to me.
It's very unsettling. Like, it's very unsettling.
Yeah.
It's
I don't know if that's supposed to be intentional.
Yeah. But anyways, what kind of drew me to it is it's about this young man named Delph, and he might be the second coming of Christ. So, anyways, Delph is running from his life as he attempts to learn the truth behind his existence. That's what the publisher summary has given me. And that was it.
Wow.
And then the cover was just so like unsettling, but it just looked like it was staring at me and saying like, "You must read me."
Oh man.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'm gonna.
Do you mind showing me what the inside looks like? I can't remember if I looked at it.
So there was I think that there was a preview of it in one of the Little Monsters issues. So you may.
I need to start doing that. I need to start reading previews.
Here, I don't even know what page this is, but
that's fine. Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna wait to hear back from you before I make any decisions on that one. If the second cover looks better, and not that it looks better, but if it doesn't give me the heebie-jeebies, then yeah, see, that looks a lot better. That's a lot more appealing to me.
Yeah,
I feel like I just don't like the empty background. I think I don't mind the figures so much. It's more the
it's because it's kind of like they're coming out of nowhere, and it's I don't know. We'll see. I'm gonna give it a shot
or something. Wow.
Brighten it up a little bit.
Yeah. Why is everybody so goddamn sad?
Well, the brightness comes from, I don't know if you could see how creepy their eyes are.
Yeah, I hate it. They all have the same. Their heads all look the same. I don't know if they're supposed to look the same.
Yeah.
I don't know. You read it and you let me know.
I'll let you know. And the last thing I got, I've been pretty excited about this. It is a new graphic novel. From our buddy Jeff Lemur and his often artist buddy Andrea Sorrentino. And it's
when did this come out?
Today. The Passageway.
It's a whole graphic novel?
I guess I did not know that that's what it was going to be, because
it wasn't a collection of anything.
Nope.
He's just dropping it like that.
Yeah.
This fucking guy is a machine.
This fucking guy.
It's so impressive.
Yeah.
Like, how many comics has he done in the last year?
I don't know, dude.
He's like the Stephen King of comic books. That's another thing I need to tweet. What was the other one? Oh, that Images. Well, I can say both of those things in one tweet.
You could do that. Yeah. You could probably use because it is Image.
Oh right? Yeah, that's true.
So you could.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he almost works probably exclusively with Image, right? Oh no, Dark Horse.
He does Dark Horse. He's all over the place, man. He's been in
down
Marvel,
Primordial. Primordial ended up getting taken down off the wall, and yeah, but I guess that happens.
It does. It happens, but it's a whopping 96 pages, and I don't know. Did you pick up the free comic book day like prequel issue or prelude issue? So I got that as well. And I was very much hooked by the free comic book day issue.
What's the premise? Did you say it?
Man, I don't really know how it's going to go into. I don't know how the free comic book day is going to go into it. It might be in it itself, but man, it was just a terror. And the stuff that I've read about it, people are. It's just like it's redefining how horror comics are being done. Like that was like a really high preview of it.
Yeah, see, that really is, because there's some really good horror comics, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of. Well, would you say Jeff Lemire does
Oh,
horror comics?
well,
I
I
feel
mean,
like he does like psychological things. The
yeah, but
vampire thing.
how much of horror is psychological though?
How much of
How
the
much?
is? I don't know, man.
Like,
um, uh,
but the
I guess I don't
another
think of him when I think of horror. I think of like intentionally. I think when I think of Jeff Lemire, I'm like he's gonna make me think about something and make me
yeah,
feel. When I think
but
about horror, it's
Gideon
I,
Falls, which is something else that these two did together,
yeah. I guess I didn't.
is kind of horror as well.
That's fair. I forgot about that.
Primordial's a little horror. So is May's book. There's a little bit of like this like horror psychological aspect in the
Well,
same way
that's
that you see from like a Jonathan or Christopher Nolan film.
sure
Like ones
a
that just
Jonathan
make you
Nolan
like
film.
Jonathan's his brother. He usually writes with
Oh,
them.
he writes it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, okay. But I think it's more of like a sense of doom or sense of dread rather
Yeah.
than what I would consider like classic horror of like you're gonna get scared by something that's abnormal. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Oh
So
yeah.
I guess that's just kind of my thoughts. I think I think we both make valid points, Mark. You know what? I just
Yeah.
realized we
Yeah.
got some
Sure. Tim.
comments that I haven't been
Oh,
um uh
Andy told me about the new Olivra.
uh
Oh,
Ali
I
the I forget that what she's a part of, but she's the girl with the large breasts is the only thing I can remember and spooky. Thanks for
yeah.
letting us know about that, Tony. Sorry that we
Delph
Delph
Delph for
for
president.
president.
um,
Good.
one more thing though that I gotta say. So
She's
this is
oh
part
wait,
of
hold
the.
on.
Oh,
Where she travels between horror movies and changes them. Okay, that
yeah.
sounds like a really cool. Anthony, if you start reading that, you can come on. And I feel like we might have just had you leave, but we would love to have you come on and talk about whatever. But
Oh,
yeah,
is
Delph for president.
it just says Facebook user to me.
Yeah, I looked on the live stream and it was Mr. Anthony.
Oh,
He's
well,
our
hello there,
hero.
Anthony. He is our hero.
Yeah, and just to be said, feel free to leave comments. I'm watching them now, so
Yeah.
go ahead.
So another thing that's really cool about this is that it's not just this. It is it's a shared horror universe. And so it's the Bone Mythos, it's the Bone Orchard Mythos, but this one's called The Passageway, and there's at least two others that I know of that are coming out.
Nice.
In the future. So I think it's going to be fun. Jeff Lemire doesn't ever like do. I mean, he.
I'm sure there's some bad ones out there.
There's some bad ones out there, but I'm never like going to be like, no, I'm not going to read that.
Yeah.
So
that's 100% fair.
But other than that, man, how what have you been reading since last week?
Well, I think, like I said, when I was talking about my pools, is I actually, you know what? I'm going to be very frank with you. I didn't read like any comics until today, between last Wednesday and today. So I'm like,
Gotta
oh,
get them in
no.
when you can, and if
I'm
it was
like,
today,
yeah. And I could say I had a busy weekend, and I kind of did, but I think that's just kind of where I'm at right now. Is just kind of in a little comic slump of like, there's nothing out that's like really exciting me, save like that Texas Blood.
uh,
It's I really like Slumber, and I am looking forward to that. But I feel like I might need to jump on ongoing series that's good.
yeah,
Because I feel like I'm ready to commit to a longer whatever,
yeah,
but it would need to be something that would keep my attention, and I also don't want it to be Marvel or DC.
okay,
So and it's not that those things are wrong, but or bad, but I've just had such a bad experience with Marvel, and a lot of their ongoings is just like it gets to a point where you're like, hey, if you want to kind of understand what's going on, you have to buy this whole other like 4-issue thing, and I'm not in that. And I just to jump ahead to talk about that Texas Blood, something that I love about it is just like they're like, we're just going to tell these stories, we're going to use these characters, we're going to use this town, and yeah, what they do with that I think is really great, and I'll talk about that when we get to that. But I I saw The Ward, which is what we're going to be talking about now.
Yeah.
And, I didn't pick it last week when it came out. You got it. And I was
Yep.
kind of kicking myself for it. So I went down to the comic shop and I got it. And I actually sat at the comic shop and I would say that I read, I don't know, 4/5 of it.
Yeah.
And I paged through the last 2 pages. But what, yeah. Anyways, I feel like I've just been talking for like several minutes.
Oh, you're
but,
fine, man.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
I'm
so
gonna take a
like,
drip
yeah,
of water.
yeah, you need, yeah, you do that. I really like the Ward. I don't think that I liked what I read about the Ward. That because sometimes what I'll do sometimes after getting home is like maybe I haven't done the research I wanted to before I bought the comic, and the Ward was one of them. It was just one that I saw, and I was drawn to it because of Cavan Scott. And Cavan Scott's worked a lot in the Star Wars comic books. He's also written a couple novels of Star Wars, and he's really good at just building a story in general. It's just like you can give him, you know, all the like the theme, the title, the characters, the setting, all that, and he'll be like, all right, yeah, I'll write that. At least that's how it seems to me, because he is somebody that like is trusted with handling things. He helped launch
You got this.
High Republic, Star Wars High
Okay.
Republic.
Nice.
He is also, I believe, the writer of our favorite Darth Vader series, maybe the 2017.
I've
Where
never
it's
read
right
it.
after you have. I thought you did.
No, I've.
Oh, okay. It's the one that takes place right after Revenge of the Sith.
No, I've read. No, yeah, I read the newer. I read the 2015 one.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
you got, yeah, okay. So
That's what I've heard. I've
2017,
always heard that the second one was better.
yeah, where he's like, it's it picks up right at the end of Revenge of the Sith.
So he's like,
and it's
he's
Vader
just finished
taking
that. No. Oh, we've made that
yeah.
joke.
Yeah, no, it like that's the first page. It's him saying no. It's that scene. And then it's like what happens after he takes those first steps. And
Wow.
my
All
goodness,
right.
like that series is a ride.
Star Wars for me is always about my relationship with Star Wars comic is binge reading them. So I will just sit down with them sometime this weekend and just howl through that.
Yeah. I want to make sure that I got it right, but yeah, Cavan Scott he's written a really I mean, it's part supernatural world building, it's part mystery, it's part medical drama. Like
Right.
it's this is all in just like one issue, taking all these different elements, and it's like it sounds like a lot, but he just does a really good job of pacing it, and he doesn't obstruct his like flow of his narrative throughout it. And this is something that's consistent just in his like writing. And it was just like fun because it's something very, very familiar, and like everybody's stepped foot into a hospital. Most people born in this day and age, they first leave a hospital. It's the first place they leave.
Yeah.
So it's just this familiar place, but it's crossed with like this strange mythical. There's these just different creatures that help build this mystery that surrounds the main character. And even at the end of it, you're still left with the question of what the main character, like, why is this person a part of this world? Because there is another character that was brought along for the ride, because our protagonist is somebody who didn't, like, they left that world for some reason.
Well, why don't we set up say what the story is before, because I feel like we're talking about characters and stuff.
Yeah.
You want to explain it, because I feel like you'll do a better job.
Yeah, so essentially what it is our main character, oh man, what is the name? Nat? Yeah,
Yes.
Nat.
Yep.
She is coming home one night. I don't remember specifically what she's coming home from. She comes home and her neighbor's standing there, and there's another woman laying in front of her door that's bleeding, and the neighbor helps bring this bleeding woman in. Turns out that this woman is a mythical creature, and the neighbor is who is brought along for the ride. goes to St. Lilith's, which is this mythical creature hospital. Like all the creatures of lore that you can think of, like this is where they go to get well. And it even becomes things like, how do you treat a ghost? Like one of the doctors is a ghost. And
Yeah,
it's just like,
I think that premise is fantastic.
and
Whoever thought of that, I guess probably your boy,
Kevin Scott.
good old Kevin Scott. He yeah, that's a brilliant premise of just I think that's why I got hooked, and it was just like, man, that's a really cool idea of just like a medical drama about a place where that heals mythological creatures.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um I do think, okay, so one thing that I will say that I really enjoyed about it was the introduction into the world.
Uh-huh.
I think they do a really good job, and they also kind of go off the premise of like you're just buying into this, because I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of times with comics that do something that would be like kind of edgy as a medical drama, of like be insofar as like there's blood and violence and stuff like that, but cartoony with like fairy tales and stuff, is a lot of times they have to like, I feel like like kind of like spoon feed you that, and it's just
Yeah.
like, look how like real and gritty this world is, and then just like, here's a little bit of like mythological. But
Well,
in this, it was like, no, it's a real world, and like, but
yeah.
there's this other thing that exists, and they didn't seem to make excuses for it, which I thought
They
was, I
didn't.
really enjoyed.
Well, and that's where like the art really came in for
Yep,
it. Who was the art at
100%.
Ponce?
I don't have it in front of me.
I can't remember his name. I
Here,
think it's Ponce.
you talk about the art, and I'll look it up.
But he does so well. Like just I mean, he's not only the artist, he's also the colorist, and
Mm,
he did a really good job. Like just like he well defined the diversity of the creatures. Like
Hey,
he mixed a reality with the, again, like just something familiar, and allowed the reader to kind of bypass any disbelief, because like you are being nested into, we've been spoon fed again, like ER, and like you and I are big
mm,
fans of Scrubs. Like
mm-hmm,
we know these like hospital TV show things, and like that's kind of what this comic is in a way, but it is again just bringing in this mythology, and the way that he uses this color, just like it works with the story and showing how the supernatural and like the mundane uh interact together.
mm,
And I really enjoyed the art. Like I when I finished reading it, I just went back through just to look at the pictures and to see how it flowed with the dialogue throughout the issue. And so it just, I really really liked it. I had to sit
mm.
with it after first read, but I think it was going uh back through looking at the pictures and just like kind of knowing the story without needing to read again. um I
Mm.
don't know, I just really enjoyed it.
Well, so you say that you enjoyed going back and like looking at the pictures without having to do the story. That's how I finished the last 1/5 of the book. I just like looked at the pictures, because I will say I felt like one of the uh something that I kind of irked me with the writing was it continually showed that the woman Natalie was like not a fish out of water, but she had already worked at this hospital and had left for
Yeah.
some reason, and it just kind of like was a little too repetitive of like something happened. Um,
Well, and that's the point that's being driven, and it like that's the question we're left with too, because like
I will
this
say
this
that the
con
point was made.
the point was made that yes, there's a mythos that surrounds Nat. We
Right.
don't know what it is,
Right.
and we're just left with this shrouded backstory, leaving us with like that question of like, how does this person again fit into this strange like preternatural world that that is she a witch? Like,
Right.
is she a shapeshifter?
But
uh,
I guess I will say that I feel like well, that's a really good point. I honestly didn't even think about that, because I guess for me, I just read it as she was a human who just went there. And even if she is just a human, why did she end up there, and why did they allow her to continue the memories of it? So maybe
yeah.
she does have something. That's a very good point. And I let me just say, I also really enjoyed this. I will be getting the second issue. Um, because I do think, yeah, I'm doing this podcast shows me my own like moods that I swing on, like how I feel about comics. Because a couple of weeks ago I was like, I just want something light and simple and like you don't have to think about it too hard. And now I'm just like, this one kind of seems a little too on the nose and like whatever, but I'm like, but I really enjoyed it. And I'm again, something that I'm taking away from this podcast is trying different means of reading and consuming podcasts. And I think that part of that for me is just sitting there and looking at the pictures. And once I'm like, yeah, I get the general gist, I can just go. And if there's when I read number 2, here's what I'll say. I think I do really believe that you should be able to pick up any comic, read it, and understand it for the most part. Because a couple, I guess months back now, I bought that ventriloquist comic and Scarface of, the Batman and the detective comics. And that I just jumped in, and those were like issues like 100 and some. And I had no problems. Everything made sense. It was like, here's Batman's love interest, here's his friend. Like it was all made. And I think the problem is maybe writing is trying to get a little too complicated and like actually like how humans speak nowadays. And I think some of that, like, because you don't have that, like, well, I guess you do, you can still be like, he's my best friend, like, and just or you can express that in different ways. I don't even know what my point is at the moment, but I'm just kind of rambling on. But no, I really enjoyed the comic. I don't really think that I have much more to say outside of I think a little bit of the writing was a great concept, super well done at introducing the world and like condensing it. Some of it, like I said, is a little cheesy and on the nose, but I'll give it a pass because I do genuinely believe that the concept of it far surpasses. And you're just trying to set up, and they like you said, they try to set up a lot. So I think they did a good job.
Yeah, and then just to go back, Kevin, I was wrong with Kevin Scott, but there was something I did say correct about him in terms of his Star Wars writing. He did help launch the High Republic. He didn't have anything to do with Darth Vader. I just remembered that the person who wrote the Darth Vader series that I was referencing, I believe, was Aaron. He did a lot of
Jason
the Thor.
Aaron.
Jason Aaron. He did a lot of Thor stuff, and he either did the 2015 or the 2017 series, but either way, they were both amazing.
He gets a lot of those. He gets a lot of the big titles, but I actually have number 1
on
there me, and then there it is, Scott. So that's awesome.
So anyways, if you're a Star Wars nerd, Kevin Scott is somebody to pay attention to because he also has he's been so I said he's somebody that's trusted with big things. He's writing Yoda, the new series Yoda that's coming out. At least issue 1.
So that's a bold move to do a Yoda comic.
It is a bold move, and again, it worries me because I was worried about Obi-Wan, but I'm also like I've kind of made the decision a long time ago that despite what happens in the zeitgeist of Star Wars in culture today versus yesterday and ongoing, I will read the content and watch the content until there is no more to be done.
Yeah, it's just like, part of you.
It is, and so say what you will. I'm there. I am a Star Wars.
Well, what
fan
I thought you were actually going to say.
It.
Well, what I thought you were going to say was just that I'm, and maybe you did in less words or different words, but regardless of whatever, I'm going to be a Star Wars fan because. They can put out bad stuff. They can overpopulate the canon, whatever potential bad things could happen. But that doesn't negate that the original trilogy is still there and it's still fantastic. There's still really good comics. There's still really good novels. Like it doesn't get rid of those things at all.
Yeah.
Like I'm still I want to read Heir to the Empire, even though that's not technically canon, because it's still a good Star Wars story.
Yeah. And just to real quick plug this in because we only got about 10 minutes left. And I don't need to go too far in depth into this, but last week the end of the arc for Star Wars came out.
We can also go a little bit longer. I'm fine.
I'm fine with that too. But I just because we're talking about Star Wars, and I know that we could potentially change quick, and I'd rather just stay on topic. But
Sure.
issue 24 came out, and it's the end of like a pretty major arc. I think I think that there's 2 more issues coming out, and then there's going to be a break, and then they're going to restart Star Wars again. But the next 2 are kind of like fun issues that don't have.
Where are they going to restart it from?
I don't know. I'll
Do you
take
think it's
that.
going to pick up? What are they going to do after post Revenge of the Sith or the Empire's or the Return of the Jedi? I guess they kind of have.
They have and they haven't. But like they have so much option to work with, because one of the things you had mentioned, like going back and rereading like from issue 1 of something again. After I read this, I went back and read the first 2 issues. And I'm going to continue again because like these 2 characters here on the cover, I mean, obviously one of them is Leia, but most people aren't going to know who this last person is. And again, this is a name that I've never heard pronounced, so I don't know if I'm going to say it right. But it's Zara, Commander Zara, and she was kind of like the right hand, like apprentice of Tarkin. And her ship is Tarkin's Will, and she flies this damaged Star Destroyer that was Tarkin's, that she renamed Tarkin's Will. And this whole series, now that it's kind of come to its close, it really was this rivalry from the get-go between Leia and Zara. And something that this series did really, really well, because it is something that is in between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, is that it was compelling enough, like not in every issue, but it was a compelling enough throughout the series that like it makes you forget that, like, you know, where the heroes end up. Like this is an in betwixt 2 big films, and like that's something I think I can say I appreciate about the mainline run of Star Wars, is that like, yeah, like every issue is just like, man, like where are they going to end up? Even though I know already like where they're going to end up because of Return of the Jedi. And like this,
Right.
I don't even know how close this gets to the timeline of Return of the Jedi. I know like it's not a very long time span between those 2 films, but you know, so I enjoyed it. I'm going to reread it, and maybe I'll make something on it at some point. We'll see. But that's it for Star Wars. I had a couple other things I want to say, but I want to give you a little bit of time to talk about something else you might have.
Yeah, the only, like I said, literally the only other comic that I read this week besides the Ward was that Texas Blood.
Oh yeah.
And something that I started talking about this earlier, but something that I really appreciate about that Texas Blood is that they tell stories at different points in time. So the first arc, and I guess I don't even ever really talk about the premise of these things. I just talk about how good it is. But it's a very noir-y Western feeling. And those are kind of my 2 favorite genres. And I think that that's the reason that I love this comic as much as I do. Because it's set in a small town in Texas where it's essentially just follows a sheriff named Joe Billy or Joe Bob. I forget. I have a shirt with him on it, but I can't remember his name at the moment. And just kind of weird things that he's experienced throughout the years. So the first arc all kind of takes place in, you know, modern times, or I guess you could say the oldest version of the sheriff. And then the last arc was a younger one where he wasn't a sheriff at the time, and he was dealing with like occult problems. And in this one, it seems like a serial killer is popping up, who's based off of chess. So he just cut off somebody's head, which I guess is kind of a little bit of a spoiler, not really, but and yeah, and leaves a bloodied queen piece. So he's like the Red Queen. So it's kind of like a reference to Alice in Wonderland as well.
Oh,
but
okay.
you know, I always go on about how good this comic is, and if you're not reading it now, then I'm gonna still try to keep convincing you to read it because it's really good.
I'm watching for the best opportunity to start reading it. I'll put it that way.
Just jump on now, man. Because they just started a new arc. It's started at a different time period. I don't know how much. Yeah, okay, so it's Joe Bob. Like I've said this before, but I'm a patron of that
right,
Texas Blood, so I get these fun things that look like toys. Like it's a card, but it looks like a toy box. And so
Yeah.
this is like fun
Is that how
time.
you got your shirt too? Just
Yeah.
because you're a patron? Oh, that's awesome.
I think they might have had it just for sale, but I have the second volume trade paperback and a signed just issue 14 or something. No,
That's awesome,
issue
dude.
11. It's genuinely probably my favorite ongoing comic that's
Right on.
ongoing. Um
Cool.
so yeah, check that out.
Will
Mark,
do.
how about you, buddy?
Uh,
What anything else
well,
you'd want to talk about?
I got two more to talk about. First, I got
What?
to talk. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's gonna be pretty brief.
No,
Uh,
I'm amazed.
yeah. So, Cult of Ikarus. I got issue 4 last week.
Mm-hmm.
According this again, I'm gonna bring up an issue I found with League of Comic Geeks. I It said that this one came out today. So this is in my pull list on League of Comic Geeks for today, but I got it last week.
Oh
And
yeah, I've
last
had
week,
that happen.
but last week it said that I was supposed to get issue 3. But issue 3 came back out like a while ago. And so once I realized, because I read this thinking I was reading it in line because I didn't look back in my my box and see, oh, I only have the first 2 issues. So I read this and I was like, wait, I never read issue 3. So I had to go back and read issue 3.
Oh
Um,
jeez.
but then I also found out that this was the end of the arc, and I'm
Oh.
not sure. I'm not sure if it was just, it's Scout, so this might be it.
Yeah.
We'll see. But I honestly just it having to do it like that, it made me like really have to think about how much did I care for this series.
Mm.
And
Well, yeah, you were waffling on it for after
I
the
wa-
second one, weren't you?
I really liked the first issue. The second one kind of like was okay, but now having the context of issues 3 and 4, it's just like overall I think I really enjoyed the series. Um
I've
yeah,
been trying
it
to
was
think
just
of a means of how we can like rate comic books, and I'm like, how full is the pull box? If
yeah.
I'm like, is that a means of quantifying how good it was? How full would it be? How full of a pull box is it?
So a full box is
A full box is a good
is a
comic,
5 out of 5.
but a full box is a bad comic, which is
Yeah.
this isn't a good method. I'll
We'll
keep
work
thinking
on
of
that.
things. We also
But
don't have to have a I think
we don't.
ratings are
We
too subjective.
they are very subjective, but like if we are gonna do it, it's as easy as like I'll hold 4 fingers up out of 5. But
There you
anywho,
go.
um, but yeah, I would actually for this series I would hold 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
It
That's
was
so
just
good.
like
That's
it
great.
was fun.
That's
It
all
was
you can ask
short.
for.
It was like the art was as angsty as the storytelling. Like if it if it was just written as a short story in itself, like if it were like a little novella,
Mhm.
I think it would have just been a page turner that you would have just eaten up, and it probably could be told in like 98 pages. And I don't know, it
Mm.
was really fun. Like there was a beat to the dialogue. It just seemed to continuously like build up and get faster and faster. And
Well,
this is
there's a
also
question. Um, do you think I'm sorry if I cut you off
it's
when you
okay.
were do you think some comics would do better if they were just put out as a graphic novel instead of like just going, because how many times do people jump off at a bad issue number 2 or 3 and then issue number 4 or 5 is really good, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's something to
That's
think about, is just like maybe it would be good to just, even if you I mean having the options
yeah.
to do both, it would be nice, but it's
Yeah.
hard. That's a hard call. Like, I guess, why did Jeff Lemire decide to put out, that? Well, I guess if he wanted to do like like multiple things of it, it might be better that way. I don't know,
Yeah. So I don't know.
but
Well,
I
we
kind of
can
changed the
explore that
subject.
more. That's all right. But yeah, so the writer was Jenna Lynn Wright, and so she doesn't have a whole lot to her name in terms of comics. I think in total she has 12 issues out, and
Mm,
this series took up a third of that.
yeah.
Um, and her other ones are all one shots for like Xenoscope.
Okay,
Uh,
I've heard of
and
Zenoscope.
yeah, I don't really think I really ever get anything for Zenoscope because it's pretty like suggestive like pinup stuff from what I can
Mm.
tell. Um, I don't know. I just like I don't really ever care for it based on the cover art, but I
Sure.
don't know. I don't know what's inside. Maybe I should give them a shot. But she's done a few for them. The artist was Carl Slominski. He's
Slavinsky.
also like has not that many comic titles to his name. I think
Sure. I
he
mean,
has more.
Scout's a real small comic thing.
Yeah, I think that these are people who work more on like short film stuff.
Mm,
Maybe I looked up that Slomsky is like he's a digital artist.
okay.
But yeah, his art just really matched like this grungy rock and roll vampire world that Jenna Lynn Wright built.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah, I'm
so
wondering
yeah,
how much they do their trade paperbacks for. But I mean, the problem with like reading it on Comixology is that you don't get to like the unless you buy it on
yeah,
Comixology.
we already talked about that.
Um, unless you buy it on Comixology, you're not really. It's the money's not going back to the creators, and even then, so it's probably not as much as if you just bought it right off the shelf.
Yeah,
Um, and
so
especially if you bought it issue by issue, because then that's got to be the most money going back to them for sure.
yeah,
Um, so it's
but
yeah.
so
Oh
yeah,
god,
I
the
really enjoyed it.
shelf's empty.
Shelf's empty. This is the last one. This is Starships Go to or Where Starships Go to Die. I was pretty excited about this one.
Mm.
I did not really did not like it.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I hate to say that because it's Aftershock, and I feel like I really like Aftershock, and I still do. But this one, it was just so scattered, and it felt like it jumped a lot. Especially like the best thing about it is the artwork. The artwork's super like it's just brilliant. I love it. Um, but
Do you do you
the
think we just
story,
don't know how to read Aftershock comics? Because there's so many of them that have weird jumps in them. And I
well,
think
no,
maybe that's just their thing. Or maybe
no,
I don't know.
well, I went to the reviews. I had to
Yeah.
see like what were other people saying, and I think I share a high opinion of
Mm,
this was kind of a waste of a comic. That's a little strong. I don't want to come
yeah,
off that strong. I'm sure
sure.
I know there's people out there, and what I do is I forgot what site I use. But it's just like when I type in comic reviews, it's usually what's up top at Google.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's Comic Book Roundup, and like what
Okay.
Comic Book Roundup does is they put all the reviews into like a more of like a meta score type thing where it's like comic book review wrote this review on this comic, and then these bloggers wrote these reviews, and then kind of put those all together and give you a number. And if I can remember correctly,
One day
uh,
we'll end up on that list.
maybe um, let's see where. Let's see. I'm not on that site. Okay, where Starships Go to Die. Like comicbook.com gave it a 3 out of 5. Um,
Yeah.
that was kind of the consensus score. That's a 60%.
Yeah.
And like that's kind of the consensus I got on this first issue. None of the characters were that compelling to me. I
Mm.
didn't feel like I related to any of them. And then at that too, like after the initial like characters like when you meet.
What's the premise?
Okay, I kind of forgotten. But no,
That's
it just
fine.
came back to me. It basically it talks about Point Nemo, which is a real place. It's the furthest place from land on Earth. So it's like
Okay.
this center point somewhere in the Pacific Ocean, I believe. And
Mm.
it also takes place like 50 to 70 years in the future. And this is where all the governments of the world kind of like bury their dead ideas. And
Mm.
it's the place where starships go to die. Um,
You're so
so
good at that.
yeah.
That's a great premise, though.
It is.
So
It's
I can
the premise
understand
is
why.
what drew me to it, but it just I don't know. I like I I don't know if I told my shop I only wanted issue 1 of this, but if I do get issue 2, I'll probably read it, and if it's just as bad as issue 1, I mean, I'm still probably going to discontinue. I just don't know. I wasn't a fan. So,
Okay.
that's all I got to say about comics this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've literally talked about every comic I've read. So um but we talked about Jason Aaron a little bit earlier, and he's done like so many of the major big hitters.
Oh my
And
gosh.
back in 2015 or 14, somewhere in that area, I think 14, 13, somewhere in that, when I started getting into comics. And this is why he's actually one of the reasons that I believe that you should be able to pick up any comic and read it, because I read issue 2 of volume 3 of one of his, or some, it's either one of those two. It's either issue 3 of volume 2, or it's volume 2 of whatever, you know what I'm saying. And I just read that one comic and I loved it. It was such a fun time. The Hulk and Bruce Banner was on an island just doing experiments on animals and trying to figure out how to turn them into Hulks, because he had lost the Hulk. So he was trying to figure out how to get it back, essentially. So, but it was just a lot of fun. I've been thinking about buying that trade paperback. Yeah, I think that's probably gonna be something I want to get into.
I'm looking at Jason Aaron's list right now.
I bet it's
on
wacky.
League of Comic Book Geeks. This is ridiculous. He has, I think, hang on, let me select them all again. He has 666 issues on League of Comic Geeks. I'm not saying that's all he's done. 666. Okay, special number, right?
Special.
But for Marvel alone, he has 523 issues. He has some from Vertigo, Image, Max, Icon, and one from DC. And like that, Jesus. I don't know if League of Comic Geeks has everything built in yet into the system. So, but yeah, he's got Avengers, he's got Wolverine, Star Wars, The Mighty Thor.
He started the Star Wars run.
Yeah, he did the 2015 run. What else? He has man, hang on,
I have that. Like literally, it's literally over my shoulder. It's on the wall right there.
Yeah.
The first trade paper.
He's done some True Believer stuff. Oh my goodness. He's got it all, you know?
He's like
he did Vader Down. Oh, dude, have you ever read Vader Down?
No, but you do love Vader Down. I've heard you talk about it. I do love
Vader Down. Yeah. He did that. He did do the 2015 series of Darth Vader, so we have that solidified.
Nice.
But man, yeah.
Check out some Jason Aaron.
I just want to say, like, if you have anything against Marvel, like if you feel about Marvel the way that I felt about DC over the years, and this is to everybody, if you need somebody to read who's like pretty current with the Marvel stuff, like Jason Aaron's probably your best bet. Yeah, his Thor 100%. Stuff's really, really, really good. He did the Unworthy Thor. He did Valkyrie Jane Foster. Yeah, he's
killing it.
He's killing it. He's got a lot of Wolverine.
All right. Well, you know what a Wolverine is, right? It's a bird. So it's time to land this bird.
All right, everybody.
Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. I feel like we had a lot of people hopping on. We had a couple of comments, so I really appreciate that. Make sure that you come back here next time around the same time, because we'll be doing it next Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern or Pacific Standard Time and 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't know why I said that, because it's just now. Yeah. But make sure that you're following us on all the social medias. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok. Jesus Christmas, we're all over the place. Yeah, and YouTube. So, and did I say Twitch? Yeah, I said Twitch.
Yeah,
so
we're everywhere.
Well, it's all linked in the description. If you're watching this, we have a link tree there. So wherever you work, we're on Spotify for our audio. We need to get on more platforms, because I know I use an independent podcast thing and it's not on there. So it's weird having a podcast not on your podcast feed. So we'll figure that out. And that's on our fault for doing that. But yeah, guys, we really appreciate you doing this and hanging out with us. Make sure that you check out the IWEP network and all the shows that they have there. That too, the website to the IWEP network is linked in our link tree. So there's lots of great stuff out there. And thank you guys so much for supporting small independent creators. It's good stuff. It's how we win in the end. But I don't mean we. I mean like we the people.
We the people.
Hold these truths to be self-evident. But that's not how we end the show. We end the show by saying
Arrivederci.
Pull dirty. That's not a good joke.